everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about how you can improve your English skills. I'm from Germany. I'm in a long-distance relationship with somebody who's American. That means I'm practicing a lot of my English skills. I was not really good in school, but then after school I did an apprenticeship and then I went to New Zealand for 3.5, 4 months. And then I was in the US for 6 months and I had to learn a lot, and I especially had to learn that my English is not as good as I hoped it would be. But I improved a lot since then. I'm still having a long way to go, but I want to share with you what I did to get to the point where I'm at right now. The first one is the most obvious one, but I have to say it because it's the most effective. You gotta take English classes. And I'm not addressing you who's like 16 years old and is like still in school having English 2 times a week. I'm addressing people who are done with school, who might be a student at the university and have the option to take English classes. I'm addressing people that are a different generation and didn't have that much English in school. You should really take a class because you can really improve your reading, writing, listening skills, speaking skills. You got it all in one package. And you can take a class like based on your level and maybe even get a certificate in the end. So it's really, really helpful. You got somebody to explain it to you, somebody to criticize you in a good way. Like I said, it's the most obvious one, but you and your classmates are all in the same boat. So you really should give this a try because you're gonna feel comfortable talking around them. Like I said, you have a teacher that is gonna help you with everything. It's the most effective. Just do it. Spend that money even if you have to. It's gonna help you the most. Number 2 is watching shows, movies, videos, preferably shows and movies that you already know in English. This is how I started off. It helped me the most because you can see the mimic and the situation, like what's happening. You have an easier time to understand the whole storyline. You don't have to pick up every single word, but you're gonna get used to the language, you're gonna get used to hearing it, and without even knowing, you're gonna pick up so many vocabularies and sayings. Just make sure to not turn on subtitles in your native language. Don't do that, because you're gonna be too busy reading all of that instead of like actually listening and translating it. What I like to do is turning on English subtitles depending on what my priority is. So in the beginning I didn't do that because I just wanted to get better at listening and translating like quick and just train my brain to do that. But it got to a point where I realized, I don't actually know how to spell that vocabulary. So that's when I started to turn on subtitles just to like pick that up too. And if I just was munching way louder than the TV. So that's another reason. And I'm recommending shows and movies that you already know because you're gonna feel more comfortable that way and you're not as easily frustrated if you don't pick up the full story because you already know the story. I would recommend shows like King of Queens or How I Met Your Mother or Gilmore Girls, just like easy shows that are not too complicated, that not go into like a criminal scientific field maybe too much. I would recommend shows that have a lot of like natural conversations and day-to-day things that come up in life. So you're gonna pick up that vocabulary because that's the one you more likely to use. I can also recommend Big Bang, but that's more something where I would turn on some subtitles because some vocabularies are even new to me in German. So tip number 3 is three. Tip number 3 is taking out the visual. I'm talking about audiobooks, podcasts, audio plays. Start simple, like humble yourself. You want to learn the language. You don't have to start with a complex podcast about this, I don't know, gene and they found like new functionings or features to it. And no. Start with stories for kids maybe if you're at that level. That's how I started. I went totally back and I said, there's so many simple vocabularies that I didn't realize that I did not know, and I need them on a day-to-day basis. So start simple and pick up the game later on. The cool thing is you can just do it on your way to work, you can do it while grocery shopping or running or cleaning the apartment. It's really easy to add into your daily life instead of sitting down and having to watch TV for half an hour. Like, I don't necessarily want you to do that. It's like, if you want to watch TV anyway, then yeah, go and watch TV. But if you do something else, audiobooks are a really, really good option. Like I said, you can start super simple. You can pick out like your own interest, maybe like a story, or maybe you want to get into I don't know, crime stories on Spotify or iTunes, and yeah. So next time you want to listen to a podcast, then maybe look up some English versions, or the book you always wanted to read, maybe look up if it's gonna be out there in English, or a book you also read in the past, like books and stories you already know are super nice to listen to again. Then you don't feel like you're missing something out, and you have the effect on learning those vocabularies. The whole humble yourself and start easy goes also for my fourth and next tip, books. It's the next step basically. I wanted to say super easy. I actually started with The Hobbit, which is a nice, easy story, but there were so many old English vocabularies in it that it was a little hard, but it was good. Like, remember to challenge yourself. You don't want to do only easy. You want to step up your game. You want to improve. So just make sure to challenge yourself here and there. I really love that book. Like I said, it's a story I already knew in and out, but it was nice to read it again. I also did Harry Potter, which is originally a teenager book, so the English is not too hard. What I said, of course, there is like wizard stuff in here, but the relationship between those teenagers is like still a normal day-to-day kind of thing. It sounds weird. Do you get what I mean? I mean, of course, they have a totally different life than like a normal teenager would have, but there were still these like normal relationships and conversations, and I don't know, it just was a lot of fun. And it's also not always about picking up new vocabularies. It's a lot about the grammar too. I just never understood, like even in German, why I say things the way I do, why I structure the sentence like a certain way. And that was difficult for me, because if I can't really even explain that in German, like how am I supposed to do that in English? And that's why my exams weren't that good too, because I just have no idea what I'm doing. I'm somebody, I just learn by listening and speaking to other people. And that's just like another version basically. I just picked up like, oh, if they say it this way, then the sentence follows that way. And I can't even explain it. It's just an automatic process, and that's what these tips are, except the English class one. You automatically learn it. You put the effort and time in a certain way, but you just pick that up. Like, that's how my brain works. That's why I share these tips, because that's how I actually learned the language. The next tip, I have to pick up myself again more, but I was doing it a lot in the beginning when I went to New Zealand and the US, and it helped me the most actually. It's doing my own vocabulary book. So I just got a notebook, put a line in the middle, German, English. And when I was reading this book, for example, that's when I had the time and I recognized, ooh, don't know that word. I wrote it down. If I got the storyline anyway, then I would skip translating it in the moment, because you don't want to get frustrated. You want to do something, you want to have the feeling of success, to be constantly motivated and ambitious, and like recognize that you're actually pretty good at this. You don't have to always 100% understand every single vocabulary. Anyway, but I would write it down, and then if I got time or I needed to understand the story, I would look it up, write the German word down for it, and then when I got time in the evening before bed, 5, maybe 10 minutes, I would sit there and try to remember 3 or 5 new vocabularies, and it helped me so much. Anyway, vocabulary book, highly recommend it. I'm also doing it with these kind of books, and I'm also really into bird watching, and because I want to become a wildlife biologist in the US, and might have to like go into the fields and write down all the different species I'm seeing. I'm already starting to A, learn the birds in general, but B, also translate it into English, so I feel more comfortable later on when I start the job and don't just stand there and be like, I know the word for Stieglitz in German and I know what bird it is, but I have no idea how to tell you that in English. So I want to give myself an easier time later on, so I'm preparing it that way. Vocabulary book, it's really good. The next one is, again, a step further. It would be, I don't know if you want to do that, you don't have to do any of this, but if you want to, you could journal in English. I'm somebody, I started that because I wanted to journal anyway, just for my mental health, and because maybe you heard about it, I was going through a lot last year, and I'm really glad that even before I was going through that, I started journaling. It's like my inner self knew what is going to happen, so 2 months before everything went down in my life, I started journaling, and I'm so glad I did. And like I said, I wanted to do it anyway, and that's where I was like, why not do that in English? Then zwei Fliegen mit einer Klappe. 2 flies with one clutch. See, that's something I can look up later. The other reason why I started journaling on paper was because every time I picked up my phone and sent a text, I had autocorrect on. I don't even know if you can turn it off, to be honest, but I tried to not use it, but I would just automatically use it anyway. Or even if I tried to not to, I already saw the word come up like on the top, and I could spell it out all the way to the end, but my brain wouldn't really remember that you spell that word this way. So I especially recognized that when I was writing birthday cards, for example, that I found myself wondering, is that how you spell that? Is that how you spell that word? And that was kind of like an alarm signal to me, that I realized that, okay, this phone doesn't help me at all. It kind of like helps me to impress people or whatever, but it doesn't help me with my English. So yeah, every time I have a thought and I want to share stuff every single day, I can just write it down in English and realize, hey, do I know how to spell that word? Or that word doesn't look right to me. I should look it up. Again, I really recommend this, but if you don't want to journal, I get it, then maybe write more letters, or I don't know, write a poem. Like, try to write more English on paper is what I'm trying to say here. My very last tip, and the most important, is to just speak. Try to speak. Be brave enough to speak. I remember that when I went to New Zealand, or even before, when I had other Germans around me that spoke better English than I did, I got so embarrassed and shy, and I just zipped up. I didn't get a single word out. So really put yourself out there. Try to avoid maybe other Germans. Go and travel by yourself and just be out there. That's how I learned. In New Zealand, I still had a lot of Germans around me that spoke a lot of English. Of course, that's when I already, with The Hobbit and Harry Potter, tried to improve, and I really improved my listening skills and a little bit of my speaking skills, but most of it came when I was actually in the US by myself, in that case out in the wild, had nobody that could help me, and didn't have internet to look up vocabularies, and I really had to. And your brain is insane. If it has to do things, it can do it. So really go out there and try. Do it. Be brave. Don't get embarrassed or shy. You are learning and you're gonna do a good job. And everything that the other person wants is to connect. That's all they want. They're gonna be so happy for every single word. Like, I met somebody during like hiking the PCT who was from Mexico, and my Spanish is as bad as it can be, and his German and English was also non-existing, and we still had a full-on conversation, and we picked up some words, and you can do it. It's okay. And like I said, the other person just wants to connect, and they're gonna be so happy about every single word you say. And I don't want to make enemies here, and I don't mean it in a mean way, but usually when people are from the US or America or Australia, like when their native language is English, they don't speak a different language usually, and they're gonna be impressed with you anyway. They never had to go through that. They kind of like could lean back and feel comfortable, and I'm super jealous of that. And just go out there and talk to everybody, because everybody just speaks English. It's not that easy. You have to learn it, and you have to just put yourself out there, and it's okay. You're gonna make mistakes, you'll learn from it. I'm still doing that on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'm talking to Dylan every single day. I'm like, what's that word? And how do you say that? How do you spell it? How do you pronounce that? And I'm glad that he has a lot of patience, but he's just the same. He's just happy to connect, and he wants me to learn. Like, I'm really lucky that I got him with lots of patience, but most people are like that. And if not, then screw them. They probably didn't learn a different language, or they're just ignorant. You don't want to talk to those people anyway. So don't you worry, you can do it. Like I said, start simple and level it up. Try to always challenge yourself. Don't get too comfortable. I'm still doing all of these tips. I still have a long way to go, but I really, really improved over the last 5 years. And I know that you can do it too. Like, I was really bad in English back then. You can do it. You got this. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, because it would really support my channel. Subscribe if you want to see more videos of a German moving to the US and having to face all these different things. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.